So, give a minute for some people to come in here if they'd like. This is the screen that you'll see. If you go into Steam and you open up, actually I can just do it again. Close that. So from Steam you go to Play and launch Game Editor. That will bring up this screen. Another way to do that is through the Kenshi game files. You don't need to. Now here, there's a whole bunch of mods. These are your base game mods. You don't want to screw with those. They're called mods, but just leave them in there. These are your mods. So this is the one that I've uploaded. But today it will be making a new mod. So this will be, let's call it Eastern Starts. Ignore this. It always does that. That's exceptions inside itself. But remember I said I wanted to add some new game starts. So look down here and find game starts. Now before we start changing anything, let's just take a look. For instance, the Wanderer start. That's your common, your basic default thing. Right? It's already been edited. How about that? That was, believe it or not, that was my plan. Was to put Wanderer in Shobatai. So they've already done it. I'll just have to port some of the other ones over. So, what you can do here is you can read all of the basic stats here. You can change these if you like. For instance, changing this to true lets you set these into X and Z coordinates on the map. One that does that is rock bottom. It will spawn at this place always, which happens to be right next to the rebel base, which is right next to the hub. So that's one way to do it. But you can edit the description here. Money does actually make a difference. That changes your starting money. But difficulty and style are just text. That only changes what appears in the game start page. Changes what you see. Now, town is the easiest to explain, so let's look here. This drop down menu, you can pick faction relations, research, squad, and town. So we select town. You can read a description for it here. Random if left blank, but it will always choose a town, not just in the middle of nowhere. And starting location. So if I put multiple pieces in there, for instance, I believe this one, no. Town the hub, oops, just did that. That's already been changed too. Freaking kidding me? I might not have to do this mod. Vast, that's also in the east. Nobody's still at the hub. Cannibal Hunters and Cannibal Village. So if you see this Cannibal Village, if it's a name that is shared with multiple towns, then it will choose randomly among any of those towns with that name. For instance, Wanderer used to be Holy Village or Holy Farm, and they would spawn at any Holy Farm. And this one's already been changed. Yeah. Cannibal Hunters still spawning at Cannibal Village. Okay. Yes, you can. You can set Well, you can kind of change price. Well, for blueprints you can change price. I was thinking about the weapons themselves. You can put modifiers in there, but it still has its own calculations. Oh, I never changed. Sorry about that. I need to fix this. Okay, so back to this. You could just add a town. So say I didn't want it to be Shobatai. You just town, add, and you can pick any town you want. Like Drin, okay. Now it's added. Now, it will choose randomly between these, as I've noted before, but also see that that's a different color. So, the standard black text is what you started with. Green text is anything that's added, and blue text over here is anything that's modified. So if I took starting position and I changed it to a 1, that becomes blue. Because I changed it. I didn't add it new. I just changed it. So that's a quick way to see what's going on. Another way is to click on Changes, and you'll see Wanderer Start, Town, Drin. It might be difficult for you to see because of the highlighting. But Wanderer Start, see type New Game Start, type, and that's the name. And then I added Town, Drin. That's it. But I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to hit the delete key and it's gone. I'm going to look at the more interesting ones, such as faction relations. Let's say I want the Wanderer to start off. Actually, I don't even need to do that because we already have the Holy Sword. So you go to faction relations, it tells you down here what it does. You just open up the tab, faction relations, read it there. And you start with Holy Nation and Imperial Lords, both minus. So you would add, and you go down, and you would pick Holy Nation Outlaws, for instance. Okay, and say, well, you're already an outlaw, maybe outlaws like you. So say okay, and we'll say outlaws like you. We start out as friends. You can also change research. One that does that is the nobodies. No, that would be freedom seekers. So they have 2 research categories here. This isn't something you modify here. That's actually over here. So underscore low start. So open that up. Underscore low start begins with this research. So how you would add that is the same as always. Change it to the tab, add, and pick your start. If you want to see what those actually are, you have to go directly to its source. If you want to know what low start is, you have to go over there. Or you can just double click it and bring it up. But this is the list for everything. So let's talk characters. Oops. Specifically races. These are the individual groups, like separating Hive, Prince, Soldier, Worker, everything else. If you just go straight to group, you can look at Hive, which lists everything. So all that this is a directory of these races, while also being a possible reference. So you could say that something is restricted to hive instead of saying that it's restricted to these 4 things. And note that hive queen is here. Hive queen is not in the game. It's here, but it's not in the game. And that's okay. You can put whatever you want in here until you're telling it to spawn, if that makes sense. Like, this is just stuff that can be made. But then if you go over and you modify something like the hub to spawn in worker queens, or hive queens, sorry, you will actually get hive queens. And I've seen game start mods that let you play as the hive queen, which would have this anatomy, which would have these stat multipliers, this is all portrait stuff. Here's your stats, 20% bleed rate, is a is dexterity, hunger rate times 3. Sorry, that's a dexterity penalty. If you were to go to something like Hive Prince, dexterity positive by 20%, heal rate is default, hunger rate is half. Self-healing is what animals do. It will heal cut damage automatically without. I am recording it. So, and then you have this stuff here. Good stat, bad stat. But mostly what you're looking at is your combat stats. Dexterity, healing, bleeding, is robot, which is mostly for we'll see here. If true, then attributes are fixed and can only be upgraded with parts. That is currently not implemented. So if you want to skeleton, see, self-healing is false, as it should be. His robot is true, but it's actually not in the game yet. You can get better at strength just by carrying heavy stuff, you're better at dex just by doing dex stuff. That's stuff you learn by playing the game. But if there's anything you wanted to know, like let's say, actually, let's open up my Uber Armor. Something I've already modded. And something I had to change is you go to Furniture, and this is something that I added. This is a direct copy. Oops. It's a direct copy of camp bed. I just went here, duplicate item, and I changed the name. This is an exact duplicate except for the name and except for healing rate, which I don't remember where it is. There it is. Output rate 4, output rate 800. That is the only difference. But instead of changing the camp bed itself to 800, I added it as a new item because I wanted them to be 2 separate items. Right? So I can click here. This is a special button that lists all game objects that reference this item. And it's R for reference. Click R. And you can see everything that references it. Now what I'm looking for is right there. Remember we looked at low start before? This is, I didn't bring it up. Okay. Low start. Enable buildings, camp bed. This enables you to place the camp bed. Same way as it enables you to place campfire, enables you to create a small research bench. But if you open that up, you'll see that that's not the only requirement. You also need 3 materials, right? And functionality research 1, the same way the camp bed has functionality sleeping. So there's one other thing I wanted to show you. It's in furniture, clothing bench. There it is, functionality clothing bench. So all of my gear, I put all of it in the same building. You craft all of it in the clothing bench. I did that just out of simplicity. Some of it's made out of metal. I don't care. It's meant to be a cheat mod. So it doesn't make much of a difference. What is important is that all of this stuff I added is under the functionality of clothing bench. And that functionality of clothing bench belongs to the building clothing bench. So when you operate the clothing bench, it produces this functionality, which allows you to craft these items. Desert Saber. Unfortunately, I would have to roll back my save. I would have to see it in a previous world state to check if the Desert Saber blueprint was already there. And I could check to see if it's there now, but I already know it's there because I saw it in my playthrough. So you can click on any of these and see their stats, but I will go check what you're talking about now, the Desert Saber blueprint. It should be items, weapons, Desert Saber, right there. So for reference, this is what we're looking for. Oops. And I have to go to the Blueprints tab. Where's that? The vendor list. No, what was it? UC weapon vendor? Weapon vendor UC Big City. Blueprints Desert Saber. And if you open that, it's okay. Object. Oh, it's a research. That's why. But what you can do is you can use this reference button. It's that button right there, remember? So I found the research item for Desert Saber, and then I hit reference. So the items that reference it is rare blueprints, which I don't know what that brings up. I could look at that later. Weapon vendor Katoon, Mongrel, UC Big City, and Swamp. So what you're talking about before, yes, you probably did find it in Swamp, or possibly in Mongrel. So if you're looking for that directly, it would be under Research. Research Desert Sabers. but this is just the research item. That is not the actual right here. Yeah, material costs is there, just like you said. And this is how you modify race damage. It does double damage to skimmer and the big spiders, 50% bonus to the small spiders, and 25% to bone dogs. So if you want to modify the object itself, you have to go to the object page. If you want to modify the research, you have to go here. And you can see, enable weapon type, Desert Saber. It's just another piece from this drawdown list. So money, that's how much you buy the blueprint for, because you're meant to get it as a blueprint. And it even says right there, blueprint only. If you just turn it to false, you can find it in your normal tech tree. Right. So you could have made it so you don't even need the blueprint. Just go true to false, done. If it already existed as a research item. If not, you would have to make it from scratch. Yes, and there are mods that already do that. That would be vendor list. Let's say, what's the name of the guy in the hub? Well, Hive is already there. So Hive sells polearms and all of these items. So all you have to do, actually let's take a second first and just look at items. The value is relative chance. So when you see 100 in luxury goods, they are guaranteed to have luxury goods. And then items counts, max item, money item probability, stuff like that. Building material, dried fish. That's a lot of dried fish. But anyway, all you have to do is have items, add AI core, done. And if you want to change the price of AI cores, you have to go to the page itself. So let's actually add this. AI core. Bottom. Double click. There you go. Value. You can change it to 2 cats. You can buy as many AI cores as you want. 2 cats. From any Hive vendor. Or any vendor that uses this screen. For instance, if you were in, actually, library loot. There you go. Maps, ancient military documents, old treasure map, ancient science books, book, and damage book. You cannot get AI cores from your typical library. Go to AI ruins loot, damaged book, and leather. Hardly exciting. So if you know stuff like that, you know not to even go over there. If you click on something and it says somewhere along the lines of ruined library, don't even bother. Because you know it's under this list. Or if you go to something like weapon vendors again. If you're looking for an item, say Naginatas, just open up the page, reference, those are all the vendors that sell it. If you're looking for any particular item. So, AI core, all of the places you can find it, which is special ancient labs. This is just a list. And then these are all research. So if you wanted to have an automated hybrid mine, this is a research item that requires AI cores. And then as a research, animation, dead cat. Forbidden items. So you will never find AI core there. Alright? So anything that lists it at all, it will be in this list. Here's another research item, revolving barrel. Tech level 6 is a research item that requires it. Mega City. I imagine that's another. Yep, forbidden item, Mega City. But anyway, enough of bumming around with that. What I wanted to show you, switch back over to Eastern starts. I wanted to add a skeleton start to the Black Desert City with combat stats. So, since I want combat stats, I'm going to pick the most similar one, which is Retired Captain. And let's just take a look at it first. Faction relations, Holy Nation, that makes sense. You're a skeleton, they hate you. United Cities Plus, doesn't really matter. But if I modify either of these, I'm changing this start. And I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm going to duplicate the item. I'm going to call this Skeleton Eastern. Change the description. Skeleton theme start. Eastern lands. And I'll actually specify. Will spawn in Skeleton City. Okay. Difficulty, I can change it to whatever I want. I'm going to say difficult. I'm going to start you with, I'm going to start with 0 money. It'll be an RPG. We'll start false. Now town, name of the thing is Black Desert City. So I'm going to add a new town. Black Desert City. And then just delete this one. So you'll always spawn in a Black Desert City. Actually, what you're thinking is revert changes. That's just because I clicked on something I didn't mean to. But yeah, just right click, revert changes. Thanks for pointing that out. It's anyway. So faction relations, I'm going to leave that -100, but I'm going to change this to 0, and you can do that because 0 is default by just deleting it. Now, squad is where things get interesting. So let's open that up. So this squad, Old Soldier, has these stats. You have this clothing available. Start with a bounty. Character has a bounty, it will list who they want to buy. Defaults to Holy Nation. 1, let me read this here. Clothing. Value 1 is quantity, value 2 is percentage chance of having it. And then normalized with other items of the same type. So if you had a leather shirt and say rusty chainmail, both at 100%, you have a 50% chance of either. Because it's normalized. You have to add up the total odds and then split it out equivalently. So for instance, if I had a 50% chance of a leather shirt and a 100% chance of rusty chain, you actually have a 66% chance of rusty chain and 33% chance of leather shirt. It's equivalent to its initial scale. So guaranteed, since none of these overlap, all of these are different slots, we'll always start with a leather shirt, drifter's boots, and samurai cloth pants. Unless it's a skeleton. Because when you spawn as a skeleton, you can't have an undershirt. So it just won't exist. Alright? It just won't be there. Now, you don't need a first aid kit, because I expect you to be a skeleton. You also don't need food. But what you do need, inventory. Notice that clothing is separate from inventory. Clothing is what starts on your body. Inventory is what starts in your inventory. What I do want you to start with is a skeleton repair kit, because I am not a heartless person. We'll start with a skeleton repair kit. Come back to that in a second. Weapon level ancient, which means horrible, and I am fine with that. So these are the weapons that can be of that weapon type, and you have these 3 different models. So these are the ones that you actually recognize. These are the ones that you recognize from the game: refitted blade, old refitted blade, and mid-grade salvage. Basically your white rarities, or sometimes the refitted blade is white. And then rusted junk would be gray. You can change the modifiers here, but we're not going to. And I am fine leaving it with a horrible quality. So now we move to weapons. Value 0 is quantity, value 1 is slot. So because this is programming, this is value 0 and that is value 1. So first thing you want to look at is quantity of 1 horse chopper and quantity of 0 plank. So you will always start with a horse chopper. And I am fine with that. I don't have to change. But if I wanted you to start with something else, I could do that. So the only thing left on this side is stats. So go to retired soldier, and you'll see you start with 20 dexterity, 25 strength, 25 toughness, 25 attack and defense, really no unarmed capabilities, but a decent head start, 25 athletics, 10 medic, which I'm actually going to change that to 10 robotics. Do you see what I just did there? What I almost just did there. There should be a red flag going off in your head right now. Because I want to modify retired soldier. Which means if I change robotics to 10 here, then when you go to do the retired captain start, it will also be changed. So what we need to do is find this start. Retired soldier is in stats. Right, and it's referenced by old soldier. Or actually, I can do, I'll copy from another item. Nope. So we have to find stats. There it is, character stats. And it was called retired soldier, so we have to duplicate that. We'll just call this retired skeleton. And now we can change it at will. And it will only affect what we determine draws from this information. So if you don't name something as drawing from this stats page, it has no effect. If I made this copy and I left it here, nothing in the game would have these stats. Nothing in the game would spawn with these stats. But I'm fine with all the combat stats. Just want to change that to robotics. 20 laboring, that's fine. Weapon skills, that's fine. So close that. And I want to change these stats. Add. And the green one. Sorry, skeleton. Get rid of that one. So that the only chance is getting the stats that I want. No. Because this first value is the quantity. So you have 0 planks and 1 horse chopper. And then value 1 is the slot. So I don't know why they use 100 here, but they do. So you know what, I'll change it just because. I'm going to change this plank. Start out with a horse chopper and wakizashi. Now I can see quantity 1, and I want this to be on the hip, because the back is your main 2-hand slot and your hips are the little ones. Alright, so I did change that now. And I'm an idiot. The same thing I just told you about. So object type character, scroll down and find old soldier. I modified that instead of making a new one, because I'm naughty. So I'm just going to undo everything I just did, revert changes, duplicate, retired skeleton. Because I want Wakizashi to start on his hip. I don't want them to compete for the same slot. So retired skeleton, and it doesn't matter that this is the same name as the stats page, because it's a different object type. So going back to what I had before, I left all of that. I changed inventory. Inventory with skeleton repair kit. I can also just type in here skeleton repair kit. Stats I changed, so delete that. Stats was retired skeleton. Weapon level I left the same, and I changed plank to wakizashi. So, bounty amount. That's 20,000? Is a 20,000 bounty with the Holy Nation. Bounty amount fuzz is randomization, and it's a guaranteed start. So you start over here, hated by the Holy Nation, and with a bounty of 20,000, guaranteed. Armor grade is cheap, and this is the armor you have. But of course, if you actually spawn as a skeleton like I want you to, you won't have the leather shirt. And there's a small chance of having better than what you're supposed to have, which is the cheap gear. And you can start with money, which is actually over here. This is for other stuff. This is for AI characters. NPC class. This changes, or is supposed to change, how things interact with you. To my knowledge, it doesn't change how they interact with you. They interact how it changes how AI interacts with other AI. So if they see an NPC class of bandit, they don't care that they're under attack. If they see an NPC class of merchant, they might see it as someone to trade with. And that's why this is set to adventurer, because it's supposed to be you. Nothing would draw from these stats that is AI controlled that I know of. But I can check that. Oh, not these, because I just made that. But old soldier. Freedom seekers. There's old soldier and freedom seekers. So yes, only player controlled characters will have that stat set. Or that character set. So, running through all of this, I will even write this down. Faction relations, Holy Nation minus 100, 0 money, style RPG, and difficulty difficult. And ignore all of this because that's set to false. So I look over here, Black Desert City. And squad start, old soldier. You can put more than one thing in here, but let's see. So you can do, what am I looking for? Nobody's. Right, that's a group. If you do the game start, nobody's, you can see that nobody itself is one squad. Right. I don't remember where it says that though. Oh, you can change gender change there. Yeah, naked dude is the rock bottom start. That's actually the name of your character, the default name of your character. Where does it say that? Iron stick, unknown, basic, cargo pants. Okay, well, let's look at freedom seekers. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So you start with 4 settler characters, 1 settler character with blueprints, which is the one that carries your wheat straw, and old soldier, which is the one that uses the old soldier stats. So you can see here, value 0 is the minimum number of them, value 1 is the max number, and 0 is non-random. So 4 is the minimum number, 0 means non-random. But I wasn't looking for the drop down, I was looking for this page. So this is the Freedom Seeker start, and this is the Freedom Seeker squad. The squad contains 4 basic settlers, 1 settler with blueprints, and 1 old soldier. And you can double click on any of them and you see Like I said, it starts with wheat straw, it starts with pants, wakizashi, whatever else. And wakizashi on the back, and not in the side slot. Also starts with wooden backpack and whatever else. And one other thing you'll notice is that he starts with 10 wheat straw, but 10 wheat straw doesn't fit in his inventory, which is why he has a wooden backpack. So it tries to put all 10 in his inventory, but only one fits, and then the rest overflow into his backpack. Which is why he always starts with 1 wheat straw in his inventory, and always with a wakizashi on his back. And then you can look at the other ones, like this basic settler, which comes with food, iron plates, building materials, fabrics, all that other stuff, and of course, backpack because it doesn't fit in his inventory. If anything doesn't fit, and he doesn't have a backpack in which it also fits, it doesn't get applied. Yes, you can. And then what I really want to point out is Old Soldier draws from Retired Soldier stats. And these are red because I deleted stuff. Remember, I undid the changes? So when I undid the changes, all this stuff came back. But it's all red because it changed. So then these are the Retired Soldier stats that I did not change. I copied them instead. But enough of my tangent. So, minus 100 Holy Nation Relations, 0 money, difficult RPG, Black Desert City start. He will start with a leather shirt, if possible, drifter's boots, and samurai cloth pants. Of cheap quality, with a 5% chance of better. Over here. He will have a bounty of 20,000, the Holy Nation. He will have 1 skeleton repair kit. He will have very poor quality horse chopper and wakizashi. I believe that's white grade. It can have a few different names. It can have some variance in the quality as well. But these will always be white. It could be gray, but I think it's white. And these stats. Open. 20 dex, 25 strength, 25 toughness. Attack and defense, 25. Unarmed, 10. Athletics, 25. Robotics, 10. And some basic weapon skills. It is possible, but it's a pain in the ass. So, first thing you want to do is save it. Save. And there's a trick I can do where properties, local files, you can run Kenshi here without closing the forgotten construction set, and then you'll only have your mods available instead of all of the other mods. But it can screw with what mods you have equipped or installed on the other one. So just cautious with that. But I'm going to test this. I'm going to make sure that everything showed up as expected. And then we'll come back to talk about what you're dealing with now. New game. We're looking for Skeleton Eastern. Skeleton themed start in Eastern Lands. Will spawn in Skeleton City. Difficult RPG. No money. Now, of course, I wanted to show you this with the skeleton. That was weird. Okay. So, skeleton. And you can already see what's going on here. Remember, he had samurai cloth pants, leather shirt, and drifter's boots. The only one that he can actually equip is the samurai cloth pants. So he has it. And he has the sword on his back. We'll have to see what happened to his wakizashi. I could have just goofed on that one. Yes, I did. And I goofed here as well. I have to go fix that. But you can see that I did in fact spawn in the Black Desert City. So that works. Oh, faction relations. Holy Nation hates me. I have a bounty of 20,000 with the Holy Nation. Good, 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 good. Good. But I have to change the inventory and his weapon. It'll be in both if you'd like. Oh, his stats. 25 strength, toughness, and 20 dex, all good. 25 attack and defense, all good. 10 martial arts, 25 athletics, 20 laboring, 10 field medic instead of robotics. So this is drawing from the old soldier instead of the other set. I have to fix that. So open this back up. The stats was wrong. See? I forgot to change that. He's still set to retired soldier. So I have to change that to retired skeleton. So that's good. And I have to change the inventory. Oh, I know what happened. I did it again. Character. Old soldier. Revert changes. Because I had retired skeleton. That's what's supposed to be here. And that's the one I was editing. So, squad. Squad. Let's just type it in. Oops. I need a squad. Yeah, I did change the name, but I pulled the wrong one. Because I never made a squad for him. And I forgot where that is. See, that's a character type, it's not a squad. So if I go to okay, Skeleton Eastern start. I can't reverse changes. It's interesting. Weird that it's here, but I can't find it in its own list. There's no old soldier here. So I have to add a new item. Skeleton Eastern Squad. And double check that skeleton is not in here. I'm sorry, it was retired skeleton. Yep, not in here. So new item. Squad template. And we're going to call that. So what happened was that I was modifying the character instead of a squad. I have to change that to retired skeleton squad. And now you can add a character. Which is going to be, see, it's been a little while since I've done this as well. Retired skeleton. There you go. Now double check his stats, which I did correctly. Leather shirt, skeleton repair kit, these stats, ancient, and the wakizashi. So that is all correct. He's now in the squad. I have to double check all of this. Animal age, I don't care about any of that. Roaming military doesn't matter because I'm in control of it. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. And all of that doesn't matter. So save and try it again. So when you watch the video, you can see where I screwed up. And if he has a wakizashi this time, we know we did it right. There's the wakizashi. Alright. So I spawned correctly. I have the repair kit, I have the wakizashi in the side pocket, both horrible quality. Samurai cloth pants, horrible quality. Shirt and boots would be here, but it's not valid because it can't fit here. And I did spawn where I should have, and check my stats. I have 10 robotics instead of field medic. And bounty, of course. And faction relations. All checks out. Actually, let me make sure that I can place. Yes. I'm using the default research. If you ever change research, make sure you add a small research bench to it. I did that before. But since I didn't add any research specifically to the game start, it starts with the default which is what you're used to. Wanderer start and whatever else. But yeah, you can see no money, started correctly, all of the stats I changed are here. I just had to actually select it in the correct game start. One here. Let's go see what my new friend has to offer. Falling sun mark one right off the bat. That's nice. Alright. I can, but that's not the point of this mod. So as an overview, my mistake was I did not create a new squad. I created the new character, new stat sheets, new everything else, all copies so that the original was unaffected. And then all I had to do was add a new squad, which is just basically a selection. A squad is just a selection of characters and some other stats and stuff that's mostly important for the AI. So I see a few people have jumped into the stream here. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to just go through what I changed one more time. So what I did here is I went to Game Starts and I added this one. I copied it from Retired Captain. And then I just changed all the stats. I had to create a new stat sheet and I created a new squad as well as a new character. All of those things are just collections of numbers. That's it. But it's important to copy it off of something or create one new instead of changing the original. Otherwise, for instance, if I changed the Retired Captain stat sheet for this start, when you go to play the Retired Captain start, it'll have those modified stats. Or in the case of one mod that I tried a while ago, that lets you start off with incredibly high stats. What the guy didn't realize was that he had actually changed the default starting stats of recruitable units. So you could go find a recruit that would still only ask you for 700 cats. This was way back when they were cheap. And instead of them being ones across the board, they would be hundreds across the board. Just like you. Just like your start. You have to be careful about that, because you might not be the only thing drawing information. So, back to this. This is your relations, your game start relations. Holy Nation hates you, as you recall from the Retired Captain start. I didn't change that. Start position, none of this matters because this is turned to false. And what you really want to look out for is that right there. That is your starting money. The rest of this is just a description that you see when you select it from the start page. This is where you spawn. In this case, Black Desert City, which is one of the new places out in the east. And Retired Skeleton Squad is all this is just a box that contains this. That's it. This is important for AI. That doesn't matter since you're in control. So it controls, or it contains this one item, which happens to be a character sheet, which has a starting bounty of 20,000 with the Holy Nation, just like before, with a guaranteed chance. We start with these clothings. Yeah, this clothing. Except if you spawn as a skeleton, because leather shirt and drifter's boots are not compatible with skeletons. You will come in with one skeleton repair kit instead of food and medical. And he will start with these stats, instead of the typical retired captain stats. You could have used the retired captain stat. God, you could have used the retired captain stats here, and that would be fine, except that I modified them. And I specifically did that to show what you have to do. So when you change it, you have to copy it first, unless you're trying to modify something that is global. For instance, in the case that I mentioned before, if you want every hireable recruit to be 100 stats across the board, that's okay. It's your mod. You do that if you want. If that's not the intention, you have to make a copy. As soon as you make a copy, it's under a unique ID, and it will only be implemented if you call it yourself. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. This is your weapon level, and these are your weapons. 1 means you have it, 0 means you don't, and then if this is 1 it means on your back, if it's 0 it means on your hip. You can also put them in your inventory instead of skeleton repair kit. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can if you want. And female chance 22%, so you have a 78% chance of spawning as a male. And what they mean by this is your initial, like, opening up the character creator. There's a 78% chance that the person will be male. Now, why that actually matters, since it's in the character creator, you can change it to whatever you want. Why that matters is if the game spawns a squad in. For instance, you wouldn't want Holy Nation Paladins to be female. That does not work with the lore. And you wouldn't want their Holy Nation farmer wives to be male. It doesn't work with the lore. And you can find other things here like unique. If you talk to Mole, she's a unique character. Wears uniform, that's quite common with slavers. And other things. Faction importance, again, doesn't matter because it's us. But this is important for diplomatic characters, again, like Maul. She represents so integrally the faction itself that just talking to her is enough to influence the entire faction's opinion of you. Now, question that was asked was the guy with the dog star. If you wanted to change this to a couple with a dog, what you have to change is the squad. So you have a leader, which this is another character page. You have an animal. As you can see, value 0 is the minimum number, value 1 is the max number, value 2 is the age. So it starts out with an age 0 bone dog, exactly one of them, which is a liability more than anything else. And you start with one of these characters. Rag loincloth, basic first aid kit, the lowest level that you can get on a weapon in the worst weapon that you can get. You also start with cheap gear if Rag loincloth even had a gear rating. And then your money is over here, 13 money. So if you wanted to do something with this, you would add character templates making up each squad. Value 1 is the number of them. So you can just change this to 2. And you would have 2 of these stars. and you could change them to male and female as you wish. You can see in here there's 50% chance of each. So actually I'm going to test that. So, guy with dog start. Now I did modify the original. It's important to remember. Stop that. Open up, go. And I guess I made a mistake. Again. I think it's because you can only have 1 leader. Yes, I know it's not working. So I'm going to change that back to 1. I'm going to add another squad. We'll start homeless. Now you can see all these are squad. And this one is called leader. So we'll try that. And honestly, I don't know what difference it makes. We'll find out soon. And it worked. Take male, female, you can change it if you wish. And your dog. And if you wanted to make your dog useful, just bump up its age. That's it. And I want to change that back. If you really wanted to, as I mentioned before, you have this stat here. You could just have 1 copy of homeless guaranteed male, 1 copy of homeless guaranteed female, and if anyone who wants to change it to anything else, they can do that in the editor. So, cannibal hunters. I wanted to add a start with cannibal hunters at Cannibal Bastion. So, game start. I want to copy this. And instead of spawning in a cannibal village, they will spawn at Cannibal Bastion. dead characters or unconscious characters? So there we go. That's all I have to do. The only thing I changed is where you spawn. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you spawn dead characters? Unless it's for role-playing reasons, but even then. Were they from your faction or from a different faction? Well, maybe it's just a mistake. I don't know. So, anyway, I didn't change anything except for where they spawn. So, for comparison, previously, they spawned in anything called Cannibal Village, which is actually a lot of them. So it's the exact same stuff. I changed it to Cannibal Bastion, and I changed the description and the name. It has to be a separate name, just for your own reference. And I changed that because you no longer start in combat. So take that away, and let's start it. They started in your faction? It must have been for roleplay. Oop, right there. Cannibal Hunters Eastern. Oh, I don't care about any of that because I didn't change any of that. And we did! This is the Cannibal Bastion. So that's a new start. Exactly the same, except you're not in combat as soon as you spawn. Yes, that's what it was called in the original. I can show you that. So in the original, right there, difficulty dodgy, style action RPG, I didn't change that. Because if you intend to play it as Cannibal Hunters, the difficulty is still dodgy, even if you don't start in their town. You're not well enough equipped for that. So it's the exact same start, just in a different place. So the one off my list. And I wanted to make a slaver start in eye socket. Now, since slavery isn't actually in the game, it would just be roleplay, really. So I'll come back to that. Check nobodies and freedom seekers. Nobody starts at the hub, that's fine. And the freedom seekers starts at any way station. There are way stations in the east, so there's already a chance for that. So I'll leave that as it is. And an anti-slaver starting in hang. I don't know how I would do that. I could just roleplay it out of Cannibal Hunters again. Or Freedom Seekers. Tell you what, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to call this anti-slavers. Wow. Anti-slavers. And again, Eastern, so they can recognize it's from my mod. And Holy Nation is going to hate you for sure. Style RPG, that's fine. And I'm going to delete this, since if you're going to be an anti-slaver, United Cities is going to hate you. But I'm going to start you there so you can earn the reputation on your own. Actually, I'll do the same thing with Holy Nation. Get rid of Holy Nation. Starts with 5 characters. So, first thing, I want to change this to, what's it called, hang? Yes. Which is the Traders Guild capital, and they're a big force for the whole slavery thing in the United Cities. So we'll be starting there, and all I have to do is change the squad. Oh, right. You're that. So this is going to be a new squad. And I didn't name it. Can I name it here? I don't remember. Let's just name it there. Squad anti-slavers. Still can't spell. Okay, and you are going to consist of squad five old. That's not what I wanted. Let's try that again. Old soldier. Go anti-slaving with 5 old man fishers. 5 old soldiers. Okay. So I didn't change anything else. I changed where they spawn, and I made it 5 old soldiers, which is the entire old soldier start. You have the clothing, inventory, stats, weapon, or yeah, 1 weapon, quality of all of that. Oh, and the bounty. Well, I'm not going to change that. I'm going to leave your original characters with the bounty, and I am fine with that. But they will not hate you by default. So if you hire anyone else that they don't know, you can still send them into Holy Nation territory and cause havoc. Okay, that was Anti-Slavers Eastern. Let's go try it out. You notice I changed that. Starts with 5 characters. And there you go. You have 5 perfect clone old soldiers, more or less. With the same stats, the same equipment, the same everything else. You can still customize them as you'd like, but they will always start with the same equipment and stats. Race allowing. And let me just follow this through all the way to the end. I'm going to leave all of them named Old Soldier. I'm going to change the first 2 to female. Leave you as normal. I'm going to change you to a Shek. And you will be a Hive Soldier drone. Start. So, you can see here, they all have the same stats. They all have the same gear and the same inventory. Race allowing. Well, yes, there's... Actually, no, they don't. Sword grade is stuck. At least within a very small margin. Now, better pants could happen. There's a 5% upgrade chance, which is quite unlikely. There you go. And now you're free to do whatever. If you wanted to... Oh yeah, they'll have bounties. But faction is neutral. So you have to earn your reputation as an anti-slaver. And you have kind of okay gear. I mean, at least you're protected, everything except your head. Kind of. You actually have a sword instead of a stick. And you have the skills to use it. Plus medical and food. This is a far better start than you would normally get. But I'm not asking you to play it as a normal start either. Okay. So what you want to do is you can get it straight from the Steam here. You hit play, launch game editor. Now if you are not on Steam, you can find it here. In the game files, Forgotten Construction Set. It will take you to the same place. Now the first thing that pops up will just be an like pick your mod kind of thing. If you're just getting started, it will be empty as far as you're concerned. So just hit done and continue. And the second screen that pops up will always be there. That's just saying there are discrepancies in the code. Ignore it. That's the game developers that did that. And it works. It runs, so it's fine. Now, that one was done. Anti-slaver. So, Maltu, have you been following along? English. Have you been following along for long enough to see what I'm doing here? Okay. So as what was my easiest one was Cannibal Hunters. So all I did was I copied this Cannibal Hunter start, which is the default, and I changed the town. So all I did was go to town, add Cannibal Bastion, right there. And just OK, it's added, it's already there. And then I just deleted the other one, which was Cannibal Village. Now, if the name of the town is something that's repeated, for instance, Cannibal Village, you will spawn at anything randomly with the name Cannibal Village. So, oh, and thank you for the follow. Now you can change the description here. The difficulty and style are just text boxes. You can put whatever you want there. It's meant to describe it to the player. It doesn't actually change anything. Money does matter. You can change that to whatever you want. That's your starting cash. So I explained town. You can see the town page. So the residents, trade culture, faction, all other stuff. The faction is the only one that you really have to worry about. But I'm not going to talk about modifying towns today. So what you are interested in is this. This is your squad. You have adventurer and adventurer with skill. So you can look at those. These are your clothing options, whatever else. But a little less complicated one would be my skeleton start. You can start as whatever you like, because you go into the character creator. But this is themed to start as a skeleton. As you start in the new skeleton-only city. There might be some hive in there, but it's mostly skeletons. Holy Nation hates you, because of course you're supposed to be a skeleton. And I changed this. So this is the squad sheet. You don't have to worry about most of this. You can see right there, squad template. This is the game start sheet. This is the squad template sheet. Most of this is for AI use, and you'll be controlling the characters, so it doesn't matter. But this is what you are interested in. You can see right there, there's a 1 and a 0. Value 0, which is the first one, is the number of them, the number of retired skeletons. Value 1 is a max number, or 0 for non-random. So if I put 1 and 4, you could have anywhere between 1 and 4 retired skeletons randomly. Mostly that is for when the game itself spawns in squads. For instance, a Holy Nation patrol, or a dog nest, or anything else. It spawns in with some randomness. But what we're really interested in is these stats. So you have your clothing here. 1 is quantity, and that is a percentage chance. So if I put a 50% chance with a shirt, only half the time you would spawn with a leather shirt. And if there's any overlap, it'll pick randomly. So you have leather boots, or leather shirt, drifter's boots, and samurai cloth pants. None of those fit into the same slot, so he will get one of each, because they're each 100%. Unless you spawn as a character that can't wear it. For instance, a skeleton can't wear boots or an undershirt, so he just won't have it. This Bounty Faction Holy Nation is important because of this field here. Bounty amount 20,000 cats. Bounty chance guaranteed. And this is just a randomness factor, which is 0. So you have a guaranteed 20,000 cat bounty with the Holy Nation when you start. As well as them hating you to start because of the faction relation over there. So this is your faction stats, this is your individual character stats. I could have 4 of these different in the same squad, and I can even have multiple squads in the same start. It gets needlessly complicated sometimes. But okay, so back to clothing. This is tied to the armor grade right here, gear cheap, which is your typical white grade. It's about as bad as you can get, except prototype. And armor upgrade chance, again, this is for randomness. Like if you've ever taken out a bandit squad, and you've noticed that some of them have blue grade gear instead of the normal crappy white, this is why. There's a 5% chance that each of those items will be one higher tier, which is blue. Then inventory, it's just the basic stuff in your inventory. Normally this would be medical and food. I changed it to skeleton repair kit. You have your weapon level. Ancient is your typical white grade, which is, it's usable, but it's horrible. And then horse chopper, 1 means the quantity. So you have 1 horse chopper and 1 wakizashi, and 1 in the second slot, or 1 or higher, means it'll be on your back. 0 means it'll be on your hip. So when you take this start, you'll have a horse chopper on your back, which is the big slot, the 2-handed weapon slot in your inventory. The wakizashi is the little one. Like if you ever hurt your arm, you'll switch to that one. And stats. This is another thing I had to change. So you have dexterity, strength, toughness, etc. All of your character stats are here, and you can change whatever. So I had to modify all of these things for this start because I wanted a couple things different. I wanted to have robotics here instead of medic, which means this had to be different, which means this reference had to be different, and I also changed some values in here, which means this reference had to be different, which means this reference had to be different. So all the way up I had to copy pages and refill in different stuff. But going back to Cannibal Hunters, the only thing I changed was town. I left everything else the same, so I didn't have to modify anything else. And since this is referencing a true thing that's already in game data, then I don't have to go change that either. I don't have to make a copy of Cannibal Bastion to reference it here, because that's all it is here, it's a reference. Now, if I wanted them to spawn in Cannibal Bastion, except I wanted that town to be owned by a different faction, I would have to change that directly in what is being referenced. I could not create a new town because the stuff on the map is set. That makes sense. The characters in the map are not set, especially when you're creating your initial start. So that's 1, 2, 3. I was looking at adding another nobody start in Shobatai. So you have this nobody start. If you're familiar, it's just a bunch of nobodies, as the name implies. Come on. Bunch of these guys, and they're just horrible. You have cargo pants, which have no protection, basic first aid kits, and the lowest quality material you can get, iron sticks. Pathetic. And no money. But that's the whole point. Notice they spawn in the hub. Now there's only one hub, so they will only spawn there. But let's say I wanted them to spawn instead in one of the new locations, Shobatai. This went part in a new Eastern map released today. So what you do is you go over here, and I want to duplicate it, because I don't want to change the original. I want people to be able to go to the nobody start and take the classic nobody start. So I'm just going to add a new one. But I want everything else to be the same. So I'm just going to call it Nobody's Eastern. Nice and simple. And double check this. It doesn't say anything about the hub, so I'll leave it be. Easy RPG, 0 money. I don't want to change anything else. Let's delete that. And add the town. Shobutai. That's it. I just made a new start, but all I changed is where they start. Everything else would be the same. If I wanted one of them to be stronger, or I wanted one of them to have better gear, or whatever else, I would have to change this. I would have to make a new squad that would contain a new character, unless I was only referencing other stuff. Like if I wanted to say, I believe it's 5 nobodies. Instead of starting with 5 nobodies, I could start with 4 nobodies and 1 retired captain. I could do that. And since it already exists in the game, I don't have to copy it, I don't have to reference it. I mean, I don't have to copy it, I only have to reference it. So, that's the kind of thing you can get yourself into. Where you only really have to be careful is when you change something. Every time you change something, unless you're intending to change it, every time it happens in the world, you have to copy it. It will have a unique ID, like that right there, and it will only happen when you reference it. So always copy it, unless you're trying to do something that just sweep the board change across the entire world, which is rare. So I need to test this. I did the nobody start in Shobutai. Oh, the reason I launch Kenshi from the game directory is that if you try to launch it from Steam while the editor is open, it will just reopen the editor or refocus the editor. So the nobody start is still here. I didn't change it. But I also have a nobody's Eastern now. And I don't care how ugly he is, I'm not keeping the save. Let's go. So there we go. 5 cargo pants, iron sticks of the lowest quality, basic first aid kits, and no skills. Exactly like the normal nobody start, except I spawned in Shobutai. That's it. Now I was going to change a bunch of the other ones or add a bunch of extra ones, but Lo-Fi beat me to it. For instance, the Freedom Seeker start has already been moved to Shobutai, which is exactly where I was going to put it. Yes, the mods that you download from Workshop will only be there if you launch the game from Steam. But any mods that you make yourself will still be there if you launch it from the directory. Which is why I use it for testing. Especially because you can do it while the thing is still open. And nobodies have no faction, correct? Yeah, no faction relations. No bounties, no anything else. So I was thinking about adding a Slayer, Slaver cosplay start in eye socket, one of the new eastern towns. Does anyone have any recommendations on how to do that? How would I make it an effective cosplay? Anyone? Well, I'll show you what I mean by this. So when I launch it from the directory, I have Eastern Starts and Uber Armor. My only two mods. Eastern Starts is the one I'm doing now. Uber Armor is from a while ago. So if I go to my page here, and I go to the mods folder, guess what two mods are here? These are my mods. The ones I created myself. If you wanted to see the... You know what? I'll show you that too. File Explorer... E6 Steam. Where is it? Steam Apps. Common. Oops. No, I did that wrong. Workshop. Steam Apps. Workshop. Content. And now one of these will be Kenshi, but it's listed by game number or game ID. So either you can happen to know it, or you can go through these one by one. I know that's not it. That's it. So you open, let's say this one, a deleted mod or unsubscribed mod. Pocket Change. This is one of the mods I have. If you wanted to see what makes this tick, you could copy this file and move it into your other folder, and then just open it and modify it. And all you would do is copy it, make a new folder. There's a readme here about how to do this, but you make a new folder, you just stick it in here. You need the mod, info, and the disk image, if it has it. If it's missing anything, like this one, only has this one file, you only need the one file. That's it. Just copy the whole folder, stick it in there in a new folder. And whatever you name the folder is how it will show up. Well, since none of you have given me any ideas, I'm just going to do it myself. I want it to be a slaver start in eye socket. So, oh, Wandering Trader. Trader's Edge. Yes, beat me to it. Okay. Slaver start. This is going to be I'm going to copy this, because it already has most of what I want. You're going to be Slavers Eastern. You're going to spawn an eye socket. Oops. Town. Eye socket. Now I have to change the squad. I want this to be a roleplay, so they have to be wearing some kind of slaver gear. For reference, go over to characters and go find a slaver. Okay. So currently we are in squad anti-slavers. It's not what we want. I'm going to make a completely new squad. I'm going to open it up and call it Squad Slavers. And you need a squad. Now, what I could do is just pick slaver down here. So just slaver. And I want 5 units, no randomness. But that means I can't edit anything here. I'm stuck with all of this. Cheap quality gear. There's a trader class. So supposedly, I don't know if the AI actually responds differently to you, depending on what class it is. I doubt it. Horrible weapons. Anything else. If I wanted to change any of this, I have to make a duplicate of slaver and change it. But I'm actually fine with this. I want them to start weak. In fact, I'm going to change these down to 4 slavers. So we're going to start with 4 of your basic normal slavers. You can just double click on it and you get the page. You can click on this handy little button here, that R for reference. Open it up and it will show you everything that you referenced. Now, black is unedited. Blue is added. Or sorry, green is added. Blue is edited. And red is changed. Typically it means like deleted changes. Like if you change something and revert the changes back, it'll be red. So you can see this green one here, that's the one that I added, which happens to be right here, Squad Slavers. So you can see all of these. If it isn't on this list, then the character with the name Slaver is not in that squad. So if you're ever trying to find something, that's the best way to do it. But we're just going to take this and we're going to save. We called it Slavers Eastern, starting in eye socket with 4 basic slavers. We'll go test it out. Okay. There you go. It's a classic slaver. And you're starting in eye socket. And if you look, it's even a faction uniform. That's a special thing about slavers, is they have a faction uniform. However, instead of wearing the faction uniform of slavers, that's not how it works. It's just a checkbox. I'll show you in a minute. It says wears faction uniform, and it just assigns whatever you're currently wearing to your faction. Now, if you've ever tried to sell someone else's uniform, you see I just blew my own disguise. I'm disguised as Nameless, as my own faction, but it's considered a disguise still. So I have the classic Mercenary Club, small backpack, medical gear, and your usual stuff. And there are 4 of us, just as I said. And we start with Slaver Stats, which is low 30s. So, all good, exactly as planned. Now, I could change faction uniform, and I'll show you how I would do that. So, you can go over to Squad, and it's right there. Where's uniform? True. So when these people spawn in, it will check what they have equipped, and it will change their items into uniform. It will tag it as a uniform. Now to change that to false, I have to make a copy of Slaver. Otherwise, every single slaver I come across, their items will not be tagged uniform. Alright, if I go over here and I want to give my guys better weapons, and I edit this directly, every slaver you come across will have better weapons. So I in fact want to do this. I want to find slaver. It says right here, it's a character. So go over here, character, and we find slaver right there. So I'm going to duplicate the item. I'll just call it slaver Eastern. I'm going to edit this to false. I'm going to leave everything else the same. Close that down. I go over here, delete that, and instead I have a squad of Slaver Eastern. It'll really stand out because it's a different color. But Slaver Eastern, and I wanted there to be 4 of them. So 4, enter, save. Now they will be exactly the same, and all of the slavers already existing, or normally spawning, will be exactly as they were. However, my slavers will not have a faction uniform tag. And you'll also notice that their names change. So before they were only named Slaver, now they're named Slaver Eastern, because that's the name of the character I'm drawing data from. Doesn't matter if it's a base character, if it's meant to be an enemy, doesn't matter. You can draw data from it just the same. Now if I wanted to change their stats, let's check this first. See, it's not marked Slaver uniform, or not marked faction uniform Nameless. If I wanted to change their stats, you can see how these are randomized a bit. Go back. So we open this up. This is your character page. This is squad template. This is the character page. You're editing the character here. So you want to go over and find stats. Where is that? There it is. Combat stats 30. Armor upgrade chance 10%. You saw that some of us had some blue gear. It's a 10% chance for it to go up from white gear to blue. And it is 30 plus or minus 5 is your stats. And then stealth, strength, and unarmed are overwrite stats. So these will be 30 plus or minus 5 unless you manually set them. So because they use this randomizing function, and since I already made this my own, I can just change these stats. I can just 20 and I'm done. Because this is already a copy, I've already made it separate. And I'm okay with that. I want that to be 20. 20 plus or minus 5. So, close that, save, and it's all good. Problem is, there's a second way to do stats. For instance, the Wonder Start. So, take the squad. What I actually want is right here, the character page. Character. So, this is meant to be a template. If it's 0, that means 0 quantity. So anything with 0 you can ignore. And then 1 reg loincloth, as I'm sure you're familiar. 0 is all that stuff that's not in there. And 1 iron club, as I'm sure you're familiar. 2 basic first aid kits. Everything of the lowest quality you can manage. And new character stats. This is the second way of doing stats. Is you can fill out all of this. You can get everything super customized. For instance, if you wanted one to have very high engineer skill, you can do that. If you want one to have very high assassin skill or heavy weapons, you can customize everything to exactly what you want, and it will override this here. Now, I could use these stats. I can change my start over here. I can change Slave Eastern. This character page that I copied, I can add stats. And what was it called? Was it called new character? New character stats. I can add these in here. And then you can look over here, combat stats. If no stats data assigned, this will set the combat stats. So, I gave them the worst stats in the game. Let's go see what happens. Will they spawn with Slaver stats or with Wanderer stats? And there you go. They started with Wanderer stats plus or minus 5. Randomize all the way through. So level 1 plus or minus 5, everything. Nice and simple. And otherwise, everything is the same. So, now again, I can't reiterate this enough. If you wanted to edit these stats, you have to make a copy. If I wanted to change this to 10 athletics, you have to make a copy of this page first. You have to find the stats page over here. Stats, new character stats. You have to copy it and then edit it. Edit the copy. Otherwise, anything that draws on this datasheet, namely the Wanderer start or every guy that you recruit, will draw from these stats, which are whatever you changed it to. So I change it to, let's say, 20 strength. If I change this to 20 strength and I go to hire someone, your basic nobody, they'll have 20 strength instead of 1. If you try to play the Wanderer start, they'll have 20 strength instead of 1. If you want to edit it for only this locality, you have to make a copy. Never edit the base data unless you want to edit everything that draws on it. So in total, in the course of this stream, we have added 5 new game starts and edited none of the originals. Could if you'd like, but we didn't. Now, that was what I had planned for today. Do you have any other questions? I know I covered a lot of this before some of you showed up. So if you have questions on how any of this other stuff works, if you want me to go through my other mod and show you how I did that, I will be pleased to. Just say so in the chat and I will get to it. Okay, Christmas. We finished up 5 total new game starts. Last ones were a lot less complicated than what we did first. So we got all of them done nice and easy. Is there anything you wanted me to cover again? Or something you haven't seen yet? Alright. Well, I'm going to briefly cover... Oh! That's kind of important. I'm going to show you... I'm going to show everyone this mod again. I'm going to go through like this. This is a game start. So starting with something we're familiar with. And I changed research. So you start with low start like normal. And I added this research. You start with all of this uber research, the stuff you need for crafting stuff. Crafting armor and whatnot. Now you can research that normally. This is actually all under 1 research. These are all of the armors, buildings, weapon types, etc. that are unlocked by this 1 crafting node. Only you start with it, you don't have to research it in this game start. But, conveniently, here's a list of everything that I added to the game. Like Uber sandals. They're rather boring. They don't have any protection. As you can see, protection or part coverage, that's what they call it. And then races and race exclude. You can see all of that is empty. So there's no coverage, there's no armors, no anything. All I changed was 50 athletics multiplier. I also gave a combat skill bonus, stealth multiplier of 10, not 10%, like a lot. Alright, a stealth boost of 900%. Dodge multiplier of same thing, plus 900% or times 1,000. Or it's times 10, but it's 1,000%. Unarmed bonus of 10. And I also had to add it to the clothing bench. So this I copied from the original sandal. I just tweaked the values. Namely, this one, as you recall, 50 athletics multiplier. So let's go to clothing bench. This is a building functionality. It is not the building itself. The clothing bench contains this building functionality, which I can show you here. So if you're ever lost at what you're looking at, look right there. Object type building. This is what you actually place down, and it uses the functionality of clothing bench. So while you are in the clothing bench building, you can do any of this. For instance, you can change the animation, or you can change what it crafts. I added everything that I crafted except for the weapon. I could have put the weapon here, but you know, why should I? So Uber sandals, hat, whatever else, all of this is crafted here. So in total, by adding this 1 item, I had to copy it from sandal, and I had to change the stats there in the copy, and then I had to change the building functionality to include that item so that it can be crafted. Otherwise, you could only spawn with it. Like if you create a game start, you start with that awesome gear. Or you can make stores sell it. But one of the reasons that this is super broken is that you can sell it for a lot. I mean, the sandals sell like normal sandals. But if you try to do something like Uber vest, this is full part coverage of every body part, complete blunt immunity, nearly cut immune. It's just ludicrous. It's ridiculous. I mean, you see 0.65 here? It's like, no. With 2 pieces of armor, you cannot be damaged. You can be bled, but you can't be hurt. And it has the usual stat bonuses that I was talking about. All of that stuff. So you can modify items. If you want them to be crafted, you have to put them in the building functionality to change all that other stuff. And if you want it to be researched, you have to put it in here too. Now, where I was going with this. So back to the one we were just doing. Oops. I didn't change it, did I? There we go. Eastern starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to publish it, all you have to do is click that button. Steam Workshop, add the mod title, Eastern starts, author, me of course, version 1, description, and you can add an image if you'd like. I highly recommend it. I didn't grab a screenshot. Actually, I need to do that. Let's get a screenshot. Okay, new game. One of the ones that we added was, well, the one that's the most obvious from a picture is right there. Slavers Eastern. And I will rename them so it's not so obnoxious in the screenshot. And I will make one of you a Shek. Okay. Actually, I can just turn that off. And right there. Slave shop. Crap! I can't screenshot because I'm... okay. There we go. Save as desktop capture, it's fine. So, preview image, desktop, capture FCS, and it's too big. I'll do it later. Description. Okay, that's something different or simple. And I'm going to change it to characters. And that's it. All I added was characters and options. Change notes, mod, post. Visibility public, that's important. And upload. There you go. So if I hadn't taken such a big picture You just upload it like that. It's done. And now I have a mod ID. But instead of fussing with that, I can just go here, content, workshop items, and there it is, Eastern Starts. So again, the picture would be here if I put one there. And I will put one there soon. One thing I will say is make sure you put it from here instead of updating it later. Update the description here, update the change notes here instead of editing it on Steam. Otherwise, when you come back and you make a change, or someone goes, hey, I have an idea, and you implement the idea, like, okay, let's change it to version 2, and let's update it, and then everything you added to the Steam page is gone, because it overwrites it with what is here. So even if it's just a simple change in description, just change the description here and upload it. Now that will mean it re-downloads for anyone, but it doesn't actually change anything. Some other things you need to know is that this game is remarkably good at dealing with inconsistencies. For instance, I can just my Uber armor. I created a new research thing and I added it to the game. What I didn't know is that if you specify research, it overwrites the default. Part of the default was the default research bench. So you couldn't place the research bench to even research the research bench. And someone pointed out to me, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I added the low start, which is the default. It's just, you don't have to specify it because of the default. But I added the default research back in. And all of a sudden you can place camp beds, you could do campfires, whatever. It retroactively wrote. So when I updated the version, the game went, oh, you're supposed to start with all of this default stuff. Let me add it for you. And it did. It is remarkably good at dealing with inconsistencies like that. And worst case scenario, you can always just tell someone to import the game. It's not that big of a deal. If it is something that bad, they can just import it. To my knowledge, the only thing that won't overwrite, like the research idea I just said, is game starts. You have to have a new game started to use game starts. But so there we go. You know how to make a mod. You know how to make most mods, actually. How to modify individual items, how to modify game starts and characters and stats. You know how to upload directly to the thing. Oh, one more thing. This little button. Open any. Christmas here asked me about editing a save. You go to save. I'm going to use quick save as an example. And you go to the .save file. All of these zeros are horrible. It's just raw data. So you have instance collection, nature, all the way up. Game state instances, nature. Some of these are just collections of other instances. And somewhere around here is research. Camera, okay. Well, one of those is research. What you're actually looking for is nameless, which is you. So you can look in here, you can see character count, all that other stuff. You don't want to edit any of this, but you can see everything that's happening. And this is such a long list because I have so many characters. So this is where you can see the raw data for everything. Like, I was missing something here. There it is. These are all of the towns that I know. All of the factions I've met, stuff like that. You go to Mongrel and you can see all of this stuff. You can see what references Mongrel, which is an instance list. All kinds of stuff. The other one you want to watch out for is Platoon. And you want to go, as ideally normally be modifying yourself. Nameless 0 is the one that has my main characters. Archie. So you can open up Archie. And you can see all of my stats are here. You have attack, defense, dexterity, strength, toughness, all of this stuff. So you can modify that there. There's also, don't play with AI. But you can see inventory states, medical states are also here. So like here, flesh, 125. This is, I don't know what character this is. You're not supposed to be able to read this. But you can just go over here, incapacitated true, unconscious true, stuff like that. Dead, coma, blood. Well, since it's 125, I know it's a check. Now I can go figure out what check it is, but I don't really care. And then you know what you're editing. So here's on the medical state. How about that? This is Archie. This is the only skeleton that's been injured since the update. So this is Archie. I can go over here and just change that to 200. He's healed. I can go change his stats, and he's better. Now there's a way to edit inventory items as well, but I haven't gotten into that, and I know it's complicated. So, just a reminder. Workshop, edit, upload. Open any characters. Nothing. Everything is under Platoon. And I wouldn't bother with Zone either. That's not worth it. So yeah, you can modify anything in this game. If you want to change how many materials it takes to build a watchtower, go ahead. If you want to change how long it takes to build, you can do that too. I wouldn't recommend changing its height though. It can cause all kinds of craziness. Desirability. This is for instance, a public shop. More people will visit it, supposedly, if it's more desirable. But I don't know if that's implemented yet. It's possible. You can also bump the scale. So if you wanted a double tall tower, this is how you would ideally do it, is to change the scale. It would also be twice as wide, but you do it here, because that changes the collision mesh and the building visuals all at once. So everything stays aligned, that's what I'm saying. Okay, well, it'll take a while for this to buffer. I've been at it for a good, what, hour? But yeah, expect to see it tomorrow. My YouTube channel is the same name. I'll put it on Twitch if it lets me. It might be a bit too big. We'll see. Right, I need to fix that picture. But anyway, that's it for tonight. I hope you all learned something interesting, and I hope to see you guys uploading your own mods. Oh, and thank you for the YouTube follow. I didn't even know I could get an alert for that. I wonder if it'll still pop up. Alright, you have a good night as well. And I'll see you soon. So I'm out.